Thank you for being here. One of the things that I want to talk about today is this, the 21-day PR action guide. So if you don't already have a copy of this, we're giving this away free in the pandemic. Just go over to pitchrate.com and download it. And we just started another 21-day challenge. So you'll see that it's actually a workbook. So you can actually use it to every time you want to start a new campaign. And we've already done 3 or 4 this year in the pandemic, but it's actually listed out in 21 days. And so when we do these calls, we're having a call today, we're having a call on the 21st and the 28th. And the structure of these calls is really to support you in whatever PR campaign that you're delivering right now. And so sometimes people are do-it-yourselfers, sometimes they're publicists, they're entrepreneurs and authors. So you might find yourself in any of these areas and you're in the perfect spot to actually work with other creatives. And it's a very casual meeting. So people are gonna come on, they're gonna come on late, they're thinking, look, you got enough stresses with the pandemic, so we're just going to go with the flow. If everything falls apart and we get disconnected, we'll be back next Friday. No worries, okay? Just chill. I also do a blog at our wasabipublicity.com. That's my PR firm. So you'll, in between the calls, you'll just hear my musings. And so one of the things that I like for you to do is fill up that chat with questions and with things that you need, because I use that for my blogs, right? So when I'm feeling kind of stuck, like, what should I talk about? I've been doing this for 30 years and I'm bored with myself. I go to your chats and I go, oh yeah, so-and-so, I think last time it was our dog shirt lady, Linda. I don't see her yet with us. I know that she's been doing a big campaign and I'm not sure she's gonna make it this round, but she's been with the last 2. And she was always asking me questions in there, like, during the launch, how do I get people to do this, right? And so it was really helpful for her to figure out the difference between paid media and earned media. Mm-hmm. So we'll be talking about the differences. By the way, the quick answer to that one is advertising and one is actually news, a news coverage of you. So we're gonna actually cover this. My partner in crime is Hannah. I'm gonna make her the host because she's gonna break us into breakout sessions. The first time we did this, I don't know, was it April or May? I did a lot of yap, yap, yap. And then we also did breakout sessions. And then we asked everybody, what did you like better? And by far, everybody was like, shut up and break us out. So we're going to be doing that again. Okay. So get ready to get uncomfortable with strangers. Sometimes you'll love your partner. Sometimes you're like, I can't wait till this is over. And that's just the nature of being human. Okay.
Michelle, I have to tell you, I've got several friends on here, so they're not strangers. I'm so excited.
Oh, good for you.
My friend Katie Green there and Wendy Juergens. And
we had really somebody do that last time. Where I think it was Linda too, where she had her whole team so they could actually get lessons and then actually workshop it. And it'll be great if you can workshop it also with other people, because other people have other ideas, and keep an open mind and listen to other people's ideas, because sometimes they are better than mine. So inside some of the blog entries that I did this past week, I promised a few things, and Hannah's gonna keep us on task for that, okay? So here's a few questions. I just want to capture some of them in the chat. So these are some of the questions we're going to talk about today. We also promised you that we're going to deliver these things, which is something that we typically do at the beginning of any campaign, right? Those questions are going to have you be thinking a little bit about the start, like at the start of every campaign, it's really about the preparation. So a lot of times people will say, oh, let's just go ahead and start talking to the press and just invite them to whatever event we have or whatever launch we have. And they forget that it's important to craft the message that you're going to the press with. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to do our first breakout session around why. So people always say, hey, Michelle, what's the best thing? TV, radio, podcast, in today's marketplace, what's the best? And what's the answer? Who knows?
It depends.
It does depend. And what does it depend on?
Depends on where your audience is.
And even a more macro answer, Marjorie, is why you're doing this in the first place, right?
Sure.
So there's an age-old story about Jack Canfield and my good friend Ariel Ford, who was Deepak Chopra's publicist, and Mark Victor Hansen, you know, some of the great publicists of our time. And Ariel's a good friend of mine. And one of the things that she always, and I always recommend too, just do all interviews. But through the years, not all clients want to take that advice. And actually some of them, I've seen it actually work out to their benefit to not do every single interview. So some, you know, if you want mass quantitative stuff, great, do everything. But if it's more qualitative and you're getting a target audience for a specific purpose, then you're not going to want to do everything. You're going to do only where your target audience exists. So pick your campaign, talk about your why, because through the whole course, it's always about the why. So Hannah's going to break us into about a 5-minute session where you can discuss with our fellow peeps why.
You ready?
We should all have popcorn anyway for this hour, right?
Yes, we should.
Our own brown bag. Okay. So why? So, boy, those were some interesting conversations that came up in our breakout. So I'm going to share quickly and then open it up for one other share of interesting things that came up. What came up was there were two things in the why. Somebody said, all PR is good PR. Really? Because, you know, we only have like this much time on the planet and then we're all dead, right? I would rather go mountain biking than do a TV interview sometimes, just to be honest, okay? So your time is valuable. I don't know that you should be doing everybody's blog interviews, right? If they've got 2 people that are watching, who cares? So actually ask yourself, why am I doing this? And what's in it for me? It is not a selfish thing to ask. It's actually strategic. And the other piece that came out was, you know, on the harder topics, like abuse. You want to go lighter to go wider, because our brains shut down, right? Especially in the news cycle that we have today, we're constantly bombarded with negativity. So it's a hard sell to do something negative or tough, right? Like on the spectrum of mental wellness, dealing with these really serious topics. So my recommendation is to go lighter. So I think we were talking about domestic violence. It is a fact right now that domestic violence is up because of the pandemic. Abuse is up because of the pandemic. Rather than, you know, just some light statistics on the fact there, and then rather than going into a long drawn out story about the abuse, just do some telltale signs that your friend might be in trouble, you know, and then keep it lighter. And then once they get into your book or your course or your service or your shelter, then you can go deeper, right? But when we're thinking about the fishing process, right? When you go out and fish, then you've got your little bait, your little worm, or your little lure, that you're just getting them in, right? But once you have them in your fold, in your tribe, then you can go deep. But you don't have to go deep when you're trying to speak to the masses. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that your time is valuable as your money, okay? So you don't have to do every interview unless you want to. And then the second one is sometimes you have to go lighter, more shallow to go wider. And that's upsetting for high performers and deep thinkers. But I'm so much more than that. Nobody cares, okay? Nobody cares. They're so self-absorbed. I'm sorry. That's the truth. Okay, what else did you learn in that session? Anybody else want to share?
That men are looking for birthing advice.
Wait. I think that's true. You know, I think that men sometimes are freaked out that their partners are pregnant and they want to know, like, how does the birthing process happen?
Well, in Diane's take was that they're looking for porn. So
That's what I'm afraid of.
I mean,
Dear.
I mean, give us some credit. Come on, some credit. Any credit.
Come on, Diane. Don't you be pigeonholing our boys. Like,
It just,
look, I know what's going on with Diane because she and I both have chickens, and roosters are a bit randy, and that's just the chicken nature. So, but humans have more brain power than these little chickens. So,
Are you sure?
I'm positive. I'm positive because I'm married to a shy guy, and my brain is much more worse than his is. I'm always in the gutter, and he's like, "Who did I marry?" So I'm positive, right? It is not a gender thing. All right. Okay, so let's talk about what's next. So if we go back to our chat room, by the way, if you haven't told me who you are and what you're plugging, please do so here. If you have questions that you need answered over the next 21 days, I want to know in the chat. So after we talk about our why, and we want to get clear about why we're doing the PR, then we've got to get into our materials. So how do we make a first impression? How do we create a bio? What are news and story ideas? And what is a press kit today? Those kinds of questions, right? And how do you actually stand out? I think that you guys can go back and watch previous episodes if you want to, but I think the best use for today would be to distinguish between a press release, a pitch, a media alert, a photo opportunity. Who is following me on all of those documents that I just said? And everybody's following. Okay. Who's like, what did you just say? Let's interact with you. Who wants to be my little interaction person?
well, I just got an award, international award for the book I wrote, and I'm getting criticism on my press release.
Great. Okay. Now all right, let's talk about press releases, pitches, media alerts, and photo opportunities in terms of wedding invitations. Can we do that? Okay, so I want everybody to right, let's pretend we're getting married and you're sitting down with your significant other and you're about to figure out your invitations. Right, you're going to have like, oh, I want it to say this. I want it to be this color. I want it to be that. Well, you're like, look, the invitation that I mail to my mother is going to have to look fancy in a particular way so that she can brag about it to her. My mom's German, so she'll want to brag about it to her friends, right? When I got married, it was actually in 2006, and it was before everybody did things digitally. And I did Evite for all my, and it was like, you thought that I'd, shot a poor animal the way that I did my invitations, right? People were like, oh my God, I have nothing to like hold. I'm like, no, it's just Evite, right? It was when Evite was really new. So I had to like do these extra invitations for VIPs, insert in-law and older family members, right? A certain generation. Same way with the press though. You have to figure out how did they get their material and what do they want? So if you're a national, like Good Morning America, and you want their attention, or like for you, Joyce, because you do have topics around abuse that are very significant for most humanity, right? Let's say you wanted to get Oprah's attention and you wanted to write something to o.com. My recommendation is that you would write a pitch, and that's a personalized, like think of it like a personalized letter to somebody that you saw on o.com or in a magazine that's writing for O. Like, hey, I really enjoyed your article, and I enjoyed it because, and then stroke their ego a bit. I liked it because of this. Did you know that the statistics show abuse, blah, blah, blah. I just won an award, and here's my book. Would you like to, I'd like to mail you my book, what's your address, and write a letter to start a relationship. Okay, that's a pitch. Press release. In today's pandemic environment, the press is furloughed, short-staffed, trying to pivot and stay in business. They're pretty stressed out. So they look at press releases as their lifelines now. I used to be a naysayer on press releases. I'm not a fan of them because it's better for search engine optimization. However, in today's pandemic world, it gives the press an easy cut and paste. So that's probably what's wrong with your press releases that it's probably self-centered, Joyce, around you and your book too much, and you need it to be more about the public informational piece, so that the journalist and the editor can actually just cut and paste it, and it doesn't look like an ad for them.
Okay.
Okay. Now, what about media alerts and photo opportunities? What are those? Well, those are just your who, what, where, when, and how. I think in one of my blogs, I said that you would, I think we said that you would learn what we learned in grade school is the secret to something. And that's it. Who, what, where, when, and how. That's like the biggest thing that if I don't have every one of those elements in there, and as a professional publicist, I literally get like checked on my information. They will call me and they'll say, you did not give me the location. Oh, my apologies. You know, that's the only reason why I wouldn't put that in there is because I want them to call me, right? I sometimes use that as a strategy. But the thing that, hold on, I'm gonna, there's a few other things that I promised in my blogs I want to make sure that you all get too.
I can tell you, Michelle, as a local newspaper person, that we're really quite desperate for news because all the typical things that are happening right now just aren't happening. They're the library programs that we can cover, the school programs that we can go and cover. There's just a real dearth of stuff. And yes, exactly. Press releases are things that we can pop right in, and you would be amazed at the not readability, the lack of readability of the press releases that are submitted regularly. It's heartbreaking, and it's a pain in the neck because then we have to sit there and rewrite the total thing. And so, you know, you gotta remember who it is you're talking to when you start your press release. Just set the stage like you were talking about. Make it so that we can put it straight into the newspaper.
And
much
so
appreciated.
Like a cut and paste, right? So you want to like help them out. Like we can also get into other products like byline articles and things of like, but just while you're preparing your media material, so you've got your why, and now you're getting into the media prep. Right? Back in the day, we would have old school folders. I don't even know if I've got an old school folder around to show you, like a pocket folder, and then you have all your materials in there. Today, they're press releases or press kits. So we have, all of ours are on technology called Press Kit 247. Here you can kind of, Hannah, we throw in the chat room some resource links for them to look at later. So we have everything here. So I have a click of a button. I can say, oh, I already talked about Ariel, so let's get her in here. So, you know, she moved from being a publicist into an author where she really just talks about soulmates, okay? But all her stuff is right here. Her social media, her bio, her media coverage from the past, images that she's giving the press to use that she has copyrights to, suggested interview questions if they're too lazy to write their own, if they're too time constrained to write their own, right? Mark lazy is a judgment, right? And then news and story ideas, and then your contact information is always important. So these, you know, putting it all together on your website or on your LinkedIn page or wherever you're pointing them to is very important. Okay. So I have to spot check sometimes my language. I'm practicing my non-violent communication. So if you're a fan of Marshall Rosenberg, I've been practicing that lately. It's hard for me. My dad was a military sergeant. Okay, let's talk about the way they're using. Remember, in the past calls, I've been using this asphalt. There's an asphalt plant trying to rezone 1,100 feet from my bee and chicken farm. So I've been using it as like some pretty interesting examples for you all in the pandemic, because I'm having to, in my free time, you know, instead of going mountain biking, I've been doing this, and it's not fun. So I'm always about how can I get this done as quickly as possible so I can go out into the forest. Okay. So here's what happened. So if we look at the media coverage, this is friendsofeastflatrock.org. Under the media coverage, I want to show you something. I was really pressed for time when I first learned about this June 2nd. And so I literally just sent out a few, like I put who, what, where, when, and how. And I wonder if I can, no, it wasn't that one. So that it did bring about that particular placement, but I'm looking for one that I did the who, what, where, and how, and then WLOS called us and did this news coverage. But there's one, I think it's this one. There it is. Okay, I want you to look at this. So this was in Asheville downtown. This is a pretty big magazine. I was shocked. They literally cut and pasted what I wrote. Okay, so I literally said, because I had to do it quickly. I was like, okay, who, what, where, when, and how. Snapshot. East Flat Rock residents organized. Say no to asphalt plant. Right. Right. Release to, and then I like wrote this so they could cut and paste this. Right. Last night, organized and asking for resident, because we knew that there was going to be a neighborhood compatibility meeting on Monday. I found out the Tuesday before. So this is how quickly I had to do all this. Right. And then I gave them assets down here. Here was, they had photos. Right. So I just I went out and actually took a picture and then just linked to it. Then I took a YouTube and I just literally linked to it. It was like, it's the worst quality ever. Right, and you can see the site. I'm on one thing. Okay, and then I just got off of that. It was this one, and then down here, I basically just said I knew that they were going to be interested in bees.
Mm-hmm.
So then I literally just put some stuff about bees in here from my yard. So now we got a little bit of a situation with this. It literally was created. I promise you, it was like 2 minutes worth of writing. I didn't even have anyone read it. So when they posted that, I was like, I knew that they were short-staffed. Okay, because that was hardcore. That they literally, but that is a community bulletin. That's about as right. They looked at it and they said, good to go, done.
Wow.
That's how easy it can be, okay? But remember that it was a public informational piece in their view. She's telling us about a meeting that we would not otherwise know about until September. Because the law said that neighbors within 400 feet needed to be notified, but not beyond that. Well, I'm 1,100 feet. So somebody in the 400-foot parameter spilled the beans, and now there's 10,000 of us fighting this thing about 2 months earlier than we were supposed to. Okay. So yeah, right. That's it. Right. He's like, yeah. Anyway, that's an alert. So your who, what, where, when, and how, media alert. Then photo alert says the same thing, but what can you take a photo of? Okay. So that might be, back to you can take a photo of people protesting, or you can take a photo of a birth delivery, or people, at a shelter that are fleeing from abuse. What are some of the other examples we have today? What are some of your examples? Like if you did a photo alert, what could be visual about your story? Who wants to share?
Oh, mine are all about trails.
Trails. So Marjorie could be all about her walking trails, right? And going out into nature. What other photos could visually tell your story?
Okay, so if we did an inspirational mural at a school, we could invite them for the installation.
Yes. Or you could invite, so the sort of like the breaking of the mural, or the finale, right? Where you have maybe a VIP maybe do the last little piece of the mural with your husband.
Interesting.
Right. We did the Gorge zip line, which is one of the zip line here in the Smoky Mountains, right? We connect an 84-year-old woman did the maiden voyage. Oh. Everybody showed up for that.
But if you're in a school, you can't have a picture of children that are listening to a storytelling concert or something like that, unless
their parents give permission. If their parents give permission,
yeah, the school has to have permission slips from every single kid that you might.
They give it all the time.
Katie,
Yeah.
you can also do the backs of children's heads.
Right, of
Yeah,
course.
I've done
Yeah.
that all
Right,
the
yeah,
time.
but if they're identified, most schools get really.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
do
I
the backs of
usually
their
tend to
heads.
shoot over their heads.
Yeah.
Yep.
But if we're talking about a mural in a school and you're trying to do a photo opportunity for the press, don't have anybody there who's not wanting to be in the press.
Yeah.
Including your husband, the artist. Sometimes artists don't like that, right? I
Yeah.
always, my thing is if somebody's balking at, I don't want to be interviewed, I don't want to be on a photo, you know, it's usually my mom, she doesn't like to be in front of the camera. Don't force that person to do it.
No.
And children in particular, they'll let you know right away whether they want to be part of it or not. And their parents just have to give written consent. That's always. Right?
It's
You never
usually
wanna
the
put a child-
children that can't be in your pictures that jump into them.
Yeah.
Yeah, just have it be a win-win and don't have them in the area, right?
Or zoom in really fast.
Yeah. Well, and then if you do have a child, you can just work with the photographer or the videographer and say that person needs to be blurred out. And I've had TV crews go to, large adoption places where it's difficult, right? You still want the kids, but you can't identify them.
Yeah.
There are some places where you can't identify them for custody reasons. Like they can't be identified for a geographic purpose because there's custody issues. All kinds of reasons. But the point is that whatever photo opportunity you're giving, you want to, I'll tell you what's been very successful in the past week. We've got we got a campaign where it's a farm to table community of large homes in the Smoky Mountains. And it's lovely, right? So they have, but it's all about, they're selling houses. How do you make that visual, right? Unless they've got plenty of interest from glossy magazines who want to do the architectural digest type of, stuff. But what about local? So let me show you what they're doing. They're spreading good cheer by taking the sunflowers. I'm going to show you what happened 2 years ago. Asheville Citizen Times. So we've got the two TV stations and a couple of newspapers that are pretty big in the area, going to be doing the sunflower run with them. So let me just see if I can't get one of the old photos, Flower Bridge from the Citizen Times. This is what they did 2 years ago. It's highly successful. Why? It's a feel-good story. They can participate, blah, 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 right? So they've got all these photos that are lining up the bridge. See? And then they say here, the photos come from the organic farm in Olivet. They were simply placed there to spread joy in the community. See? So it doesn't have to be deep or, it can just be for fun. See? That's a photo opportunity. But how you advertise that with your media materials is photo opportunity right at the top, who, what, where, when, and how. And you've got templates and guidance here in this workbook for you to do that. Okay, we're going to break into breaks, into groups, and I want you to ask, I want you to just discuss the actual media material you're going to be preparing in the next week. Is it a photo op, a media opportunity, a press release, a pitch? What's going to be the best tool to get you where you want to be? Had an interesting conversation. I like to always highlight individuals, and so I'm going to highlight Bo, who has the bunch bike. He was in our last conversation. So the bunch bike, look at this, how awesome, right? So you got the family bike here. So great. So the thing that I think is really interesting, there's been some breaking news about Simon Cowell, who is a judge. He used to be a judge on American Idol and now with America's Got Talent. And he broke his back on an electric bike. It's a perfect celebrity tie-in to talking about bike safety in the pandemic with your family, and to do like bike history, bike safety, all that kinds of stuff. So the spokesperson that Bo would have would be have the credentials to be able to talk about bike safety, not only be the person who, you know, created this bunch bike. How awesome is this thing?
Yeah.
Good luck, man. That needs to be on every single park. That's so
Thanks, man. This thing's awesome.
awesome. I love that. It was like sort of coolio. We had a t-shirt that kept the dogs cool, and you know,
Mhm.
last time.
I love adaptive bikes, and that's one type of adaptive bike.
Yeah.
And I talk about that in my books, and about looking for adaptive bikes for allowing you, because I have one myself, which is an electric tandem. So
Yeah, so you know, I was actually as a mountain biker who fires it up in a pretty dangerous way on a bike, I was pretty shocked. I was like, how did you break your back on an electric bike? Unless you know, but I'm like, well, if you don't have any motorcycle experience, the can probably get out.
absolutely,
Right?
they're
So-
dangerous. They're actually quite dangerous.
Yeah, so we could actually have, so Bo, unmute yourself because I'm gonna ask you some questions about your spokesperson, okay?
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, so is your spokesperson somebody like Marjorie who can actually talk about these things, about safety and the history of bikes? Is it in his experience?
Yeah, it's actually the founder of Bunch Bikes. It's like the dude who he went to Copenhagen, you know,
Yeah.
and was like hanging out with the Dutch, and he came back and he was like, I'm making these. So, but he's super knowledgeable in history and a whole bunch of stuff about bikes.
Yeah, so that's all we need. And everybody, can you just, Bo, talk for a little bit. I want you all to see Bo's setup. So Bo, tell us about your setup and what you're speaking into and what's behind you, because this just came up this week for a client. Tell us a little bit about what we're seeing.
What you're seeing behind me?
And like your microphone, your studio there. Tell us about it.
This is about $100 microphone. It's a Shure SM57. I guess every year the guy who makes these things stands on top of a building and drops it off, and then he speaks out of it for the remainder of the event. And then what you're seeing behind me is just some acoustic foam. I'm just chilling. I'm actually chilling on some pillows and relaxing. But this is it's my little studio space, and that's what.
So I want to bring it up. I know that we're talking about media material preparation, but the reason why I wanted to point out, I was curious about Bo's spokesperson, like, you know, the expertise has to match the segment, right? You can't just throw somebody that has created a product like Linda from last time with the Coolvio, the shirt that kept the dog cool. Her background, she was an accountant. So she would need a vet or somebody with dog experience to be able to talk about overheating animals, right? So sometimes that has to happen. So, you know, for some of you, you're the spokespeople. For some of others, you're going to need to get a spokesperson to actually do your segment. But the other thing about preparation is the quality is actually much different than the quality of mine. Right, mine is my web. This is sufficient for what we're doing for YouTube and for Zoom. Insufficient quality for if you were just doing a podcast tour. If I was going to do a hardcore top tier podcast tour, I'd have to have a professional mic, do some sound barrier stuff. We got a complaint from one of our podcasters that our clients needed to bolster that quality. And so I wanted to show what Bo has. You know, it is something for you to consider your technology. And if you feel uncomfortable, so we had a TV interview also this past week, and one of our clients was rattled by the technology. What happens today is you have to do a video like we're doing right now. Everybody's got this, right? Give me your thumbs up. Who's comfortable with Zoom now because of the pandemic? Great. Imagine you're on Zoom, but then you have to use your phone and then another phone to connect, actually hear the person interviewing you. So you've seen on TV where people will have like their earphones in. It's because they're connecting into the main soundboard of the TV station. It's very disconcerting because you can't see the person. It's more like those old satellite boxes where people would go into a studio and they're just talking into a blank box. And then they have to generate like any actress would. Like, hi, I'm actually talking to a person right now, not staring at a box that's just black or white, right? That's how it feels today. Even though you're on Zoom, you don't always see your host. So this type of environment, it's low key, who cares? But come to this, like practicing, like, oh, could I actually do an interview this way, right? Good stuff. Okay, moving right along. So we've talked about your media materials, some different examples. Anybody have a question before we move on about press releases, pitches, alerts, opportunity photo ops? Anybody?
Look in the chat, Michelle. There's a couple of questions like
At
about
the bottom?
media wants a full article. Look, from Elizabeth had a question.
Dearth, can you talk about whether media wants a full article or is it less likely to be picked up if the article already is written? So that's a whole other seminar. You don't want to write. You don't want to pitch with the article. It's considered in bad taste. So if you go to, this is not on the agenda, but we're just gonna answer it for Elizabeth. Maybe I'll do like a little more in depth with the blog. If the venue invites you to write, then great. But don't just give them an article ready to go. It's kind of seen as distasteful. A press release, okay. A bylined article, not unless they've asked for it. Okay. So for example,
it comes with a relationship with the
you
editor.
can also look on their website to see if they accept bylined article submissions. And if they do, you want to look at their writing guidelines and then submit through their portal where they would get that. But I'm going to talk a little bit about Stephanie McCara this Friday, next Friday, and the following Friday. Stephanie is a client who does financial books, money-minded families, okay? We used pitches for her, and we basically just used the pitches. I'm going to try to find the one that landed Charleston Business Journal. We talked about her being a private, I'm going to pull it up and see if I can't get that for you.
I've read her stuff. It's trash. No, I'm just kidding. I've written my own financial books. That's why I say that.
No, I know what you were doing, but I was like, you need to explain for everybody else because I think it's hilarious. But and also, if you read one of my client stuff and you did think it was trash, you need to call me so that I know what you're seeing. Okay. So I can go back to them. I've had that happen before. I had one of our staff go, "This book is trash." And I was like, "Should I tell the client your opinion?" I think it's just an opinion. Here's what we're currently pitching on her with back to school, by the way. Okay, let's take a look. And Jim, this might be, some ideas for you, right? Money lessons kids need more now more than ever. Okay, so we have a few things in here. National Financial Awareness Day is today, August 14th. We have back to school coverage, and we have what we call financial socialization. And then we've got the 3 tips, right? Share and show, saving and budgeting, open and on. This is hot right now, the online accounts for children. There's also they're even doing their, I think a trending thing, Jim, that you could probably piggyback right now are those cards where you give kids, instead of giving them they're not called tips. Right. What do you call them for kids?
Allowance?
Allowance. I'm like, it's not tips, it's something else. It's allowance. On those cards, like the good and bad about that. Like, you don't.
Oh my God, you give your kid a cash card instead of allowance?
That's the big thing now.
Well, COVID, nobody wants to touch dirty money.
All this, right? Very good conversation for the press. And hey, and then so you give it to them this way. It looks like a pitch, right? Hello, Marjorie right there, right? It's all personalized to her. And then do you want to talk about this? How about doing a family mission statement? Or you could change it to, she's got a little thing where she does crucial financial lessons that ties into some of her other things from the book and from what she offers and what she does on Instagram and whatever. But then the recipient that receives that will then say, I want an interview. So I want an email interview. I want a live interview. I want a taped interview, or I don't want any of that. I don't have time for that. Can she just write me a quick article? See how it works, Elizabeth?
Well,
That-
can
that happens with-
I clarify my question?
Please.
So I guess my question is, like, I've had lots of press releases picked up because they are similar to an article. So I'm thinking of the format, like what you just showed is more of like bullet points and some information, but it also included a quote. But the way it's structured, is it better to have it structured like that, or in terms of how you might present one with a lead, paragraph? And because I've worked as a journalist too, so I can kind of write it just like it would be showing up somewhere.
Right. Yeah,
And so it does get picked up that way. But I'm wondering if there's a better format or more, you start and then you build that. I don't know.
Yes. One of the things that we're refining is what I call upside down writing. And as a journalist, you know what I'm talking about. And so we do really well with our staff here at Wasabi Publicity, where we say everything we need to say in the headline and the first paragraph. It's like a press release, right?
Right.
But the thing that's important is you can do all of that in your pitch letter to the editor, and then just say, this is what I want to actually write about, and be quick about it. And then when they say yes or no, then you can give them the rest of it. What a lot of people are trying to do right now are write blog entries, and then they send the blog, and to the journalist or the editor or whatever, they're like, it's already to a print person, it's already published.
Right. Yeah.
And use your blog entries as a credentialing piece for your pitch to broadcast, which would be TV, radio, podcast, would be a visual format, or audio, right? Not print. So I try to simplify it to a print or broadcast journalist. And think about it this way: print people are always looking for a scoop. They want to educate and educate their audience. A broadcast person wants to entertain. So part of your answer is sounds like if you're wanting to give them a byline article, you just want to interact with print people. And my recommendation is just a nice tight email that says, hey, I got this great idea about financial socialization, or whatever or bike history, bike safety. Simon Cowell just did this crazy thing. How did that happen? I got these ideas. Or we've got abuse is up. Let me talk about how to recognize the telltale signs of abuse. Or people are trying to figure out how to stay healthy. They're gaining all this weight in the pandemic. What about just taking these trail walks? Or pregnant women are, scared in this pandemic. Here are the 3 questions to ask your doctor, right? Diane, by the way, your answer to your click-through that you were asking Bo is the call to action is not strong enough. You need to add urgency, right? At urgency, like it has to happen today. It's sort of like that old idea, this is ad theory, but if you come down right now, we're gonna give you two mattresses for 1, but it's gotta happen today by the end of the day. So then everybody's like in a frenzy, like if I don't act now, I'm gonna lose, even though they didn't even want a mattress, right?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
You showed the page for that woman that writes those horrible books about money for kids, and it was 3 or 4 paragraphs. And my impression of the world today is that people are going to sit down and say, "I'm not going to read that whole."
Thank you.
Yeah. And so we're switching to using videos, almost exclusively videos on our website, and this, that, and the other. What do you think of that idea?
Okay, I like a video as a credentialing piece. But if it's again, who are you pitching, right? So if you're pitching a print person, they're going to want the transcript of that video. They're not going to sit and watch the video. And if you're a broadcast person, you may watch a 4-minute or less video, but you will not take the time for 4 minutes or above. It's sort of like listening to a long voicemail. We just don't do it anymore.
Now, I'm talking about like a minute at most.
Okay. Try it out and let me know.
Well, I'm asking you.
I used it for a scientist who I didn't have any video of her already. And I wanted to show that she was articulate and had a pretty face. I know that's shallow, but that matters to national TV. So I didn't have anything on her. I didn't have time to put a press kit together. I had to get pitching like now to the BBC and NPR. She was a scientist who could speak about wet markets and the pangolin scales that caused the pandemic. And I literally had 24 hours to figure it all out. So I put her in a Zoom interview and just had her talk for a few minutes so that they could see that she was articulate, had a very interesting accent, and could deliver the goods on wildlife. And they booked her.
Okay.
Answer your question, but it's got to be a looker, got to have quality, like Bo. Like if you're going to be doing it, it can't be like the technical stuff has to be spot on, right? So for example, Jim, you know, if you're using that environment where you are, I would change the backdrop to be more about your book, and then of course you'd have to be in a suit like that. Okay. Look at Daniel. You see how Daniel's got his little build it backwards, and Daniel, say something so we can all see you.
What do you want me to say? I am using my professional microphone and my radio voiceover.
Perfect. Right? So he could do that as a short, like, I'm going to show up like this. What would you say? Give us your pitch, your 45-second pitch. Let's hear it.
Well, I have about a minute and a half before my next Zoom call. So, and
Okay,
I think,
well, then do it in 20.
all right. We transform ordinary organizations into extraordinary ones by turning their roadblocks into roadmaps. Strategy, leadership, and succession. We help them actually visualize their ideal future, and from that future point, we reverse engineer their success roadmap back to today.
Okay, got it. And the only thing that's missing is your expertise. What gives you the right to talk about this?
I've worked with Apple. I've worked with Saudi Aramco. I've worked in 30 different countries.
Perfect. That's enough.
4 years, and I have a face for radio.
Perfect. Don't say that. But do you see, like, we did the credibility piece. We got right into, we could all get like, oh, that's what cute, fun, catchy stuff. I got it. Leadership. Got it. And that's how they'll categorize you. So if it's that, if that's that tight, Jim, it works.
Okay.
Daniel, we are going to go a little bit over the hour marker. So you'll get a link to Hannah. Hannah will give you a link to this so you can see. We're almost done though, okay? You didn't miss much, and I do apologize for running a little long, okay?
Not a problem. I apologize for getting another client in the way.
Take care.
Talk to you next Friday.
You got it.
So that's the thing to answer Jim's question. It's those work, but if you can get and score a TV interview or a podcast so that they're actually in an interview situation, that's going to go a much longer way to our journalists because they want to see you being interviewed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we talked, let's just kind of summarize what we did today, right? So we talked about critical first impressions include your media materials. They include how you set up, how you sound, how you look. Also, if your website is not credible, you're done, right? They're going to look at your social, your what we call owned assets, owned media, everything that you own, Facebook, Instagram, your website, your YouTube channel, all that stuff online, they're going to look at. Then the other piece of it is that paid media we talked about. We didn't intend to, but we did talk about it. That's advertising, and that's a whole different world, all distinct from earned media. Earned media is what we're talking about when we say media materials, your press release, your pitch, your photo ops, your media alerts. And the thing that we will talk a little more about that I'd like for you to practice this next week is your bios. So when Daniel just left, that was tight. You know, some of you, for some of your industries, a little too cliche or kitschy, right? But in his industry, that's fine, right? It's memorable, leadership stuff. They're always looking for something a little fresh, a little different. So that worked out. But like, you wouldn't want to be that kitschy Joyce, right? You wouldn't want to have like, you know, things rhyming and things like that. That's not your brand, okay? Your brand is a little more significant, hardcore, okay? We talked about online press kits. We also talked about, I want to make sure you got your why down. That's the biggest thing for the first week of the challenge is, why are you here anyway? Why are you investing an hour with us? Why do you even care about this? You know, and that people forget about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I just-
Diane, it's all about her
Yeah.
courses and getting people into her courses. That's why she's really concerned about her click-throughs, right?
I just put up my bio in the chat. You said you're going to talk about it next week?
Oh, what would you like to know about bios that we didn't talk about today? We're gonna talk about bios every week.
I'm pretty happy with mine, but is it next week you're going to be working on it?
You're working on it right now at this part of the
Okay.
challenge in the first,
Okay.
first section. It's part of your media materials,
Yep.
right? Let's just go ahead and give you some, if you see the link that Hannah put up under search onlinepresskit.com, I'm just going to give you just tons of examples so that you can actually borrow some great ideas.
3 more minutes, I'll call you back. Goodbye.
Yeah, we're almost done, Jim. Sorry about this. Okay, so if we go to our press kit examples, if you go in here, like back to Ariel, here's 3 different types of bios. You've got a written bio, which is for the written, like you're at the end of an article. But the broadcast bio is spoken. So that's really something important for this next week for you all to really get down in your media materials and just really practice that. And that's a resource for you. Marjorie, I don't see, if you stuck something in the chat, I don't see it, okay?
Oh, it's at the very bottom.
I still don't see it.
Oh, okay. I put it to everyone.
Hannah, do you see it?
I
You see
didn't
Marjorie's
see it.
bio?
I can't
No.
find it either.
No.
Try it again, Marjorie.
Okay.
I'll look at it later. So
Are you doing a different Zoom call, Marjorie?
I don't think so. I don't think
Cheating
so.
on, are you cheating on us?
I don't think so. I can't
Oh,
find out. That's so strange.
So there's a few things that I promise I just want to answer in case that you read that blog and you're like, I wonder what that was. So I said, what is the best pandemic pitch? And then I said, hint, it's the same as your diet and exercise plan. The answer to that is it's the one you'll do. So often just the difference between you getting media coverage is because you just didn't tell the press about it. So Bo, for example, that bunch bike is so hot. Don't obsess over what you say. Just say it.
Just go out there. Just jump
Yes.
in. Be like, yo, check.
Yeah.
Come on, talk to me.
Totally. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I-
Wrap
I-
it in
Oh,
some
there
good
it is.
history and some
Okay.
good tips, and that's it. Okay.
I had one
Okay.
fast question for you.
Yeah.
You were talking about the media alerts and the photo alerts. Do you put media alert, photo alert when
Yep.
you like send an email right there, subject line?
Yeah. I usually put it like in a little bracket, and then I just give a little bit of the topic so they can figure out if it's in their department or not.
Perfect.
And if it's
Thanks.
not in their department, then they'll forward it on to their colleague.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I think I got the bio in there now.
Okay.
I see it.
Sorry.
A personal historian, I think we want to it's probably turn that upside down, right? We want to know that I think that there's validity for journalists love other journalists, and you kind of put it at the back. Marjorie is a journalist who's chronicled the history of walking, something like that, right? And with her new book, I often see like other journalists pitching me as a publicist, like their expertise because they've actually studied a particular area for a recent book. And that makes you an expert, in that particular thing. The other question that I kind of played with for this week was the one secret ingredient most miss for easy press mentions. What do you think that is? The hint is it's in your smartphone. Who knows the answer to that one?
Will you ask it again? What was it?
It's the one secret ingredient most people miss for easy press mentions. It's in your smartphone. That's a blog entry right there. Everybody's stumped. What is she talking about? Photos and video. So what happens oftentimes is that people will come to us and they're like, we want all, and so for every event, there's pre, during, and post event coverage. And they're so strapped, a lot of times they'll say, I can't make your event, but just send me photos. Just send me video. And then after the event is over, just send them photos.
Okay.
And they'll, Bo with that bunch bike, You just give them some good assets, they'll run it because they're so strapped for stuff right now. Okay.
Gotcha.
The last
Mhm.
fun question I had in one of my blogs was an easy checklist for every press release. Hint, you learned it in grade school. Now, I just recently told you the answer.
Oh, these are tests, you know,
How
this
and
is
why.
Friday.
There you go. I heard it.
What?
Who, what, where, when, and how, why. Just answer those questions and you've got a press release.
Mhm.
That's it. Don't make it hard. They don't, you know, a lot of times we just, well, should it be said this way? Should it be said that way? And just get it out. Just get
But
it out.
don't you really do still have to use that upside down or pyramid scheme? You get all that
Oh, I like that
stuff
pyramid
out
scheme.
first.
Is it a pyramid scheme, Teresa? Is it really?
They used to call it that in old time journalism, pyramid writing.
It's pyramid. I think pyramid writing is very distinct from pyramid schemes. However,
Yeah.
that is a hilarious blog. Let's put that at the bottom because I wanna write about that. Yeah, Katie. Yeah, all of it's digital. Okay, is what we're talking about. You can do the handwritten notes. People love it, but people are freaked out about COVID. Okay, so pyramid schemes versus writing. God, I love that. Okay. Yes, everything's upside down, right? So we learned in grade school, intro paragraph, descriptor, you know, conclusion paragraph, right? What you want to do is you want to just tell the story, you know, World War II. Once there was a World War II,
Sorry.
you know, and Germans lost. Like the whole story is in that one headline, and then descriptor, and then the old school thought was the editor would just come in and just literally cut physically the page, and then none of the story would be lost. Just additional descriptions would be lost.
Mhm.
That's old school, like when we were back, like cutting and pasting with real paper. But that's where it comes from. So when you're looking at that's why I'm saying to many of you, it's not about a long thing like Jim's like, that's too long. You're right, Jim. That is a long pitch. It does not have to be. Sometimes my pitch is literally the sunflower pitch was, see this sunflower thing you did 2 years ago? This is happening again next Tuesday. Feel good, that I'll put in there like feel good story. Local sunflowers to be distributed. Photo opportunity, right? That's it. And then the who, what, where, when, and how, and that's it. Okay. So if I missed something, then we'll cover it next Friday. I think that was everything. And remember, the point of it is that it's the first part of this book. So next week, we're going to be talking about the actual pitch. So this week is really about preparing and getting your why and all of that. Then we start to move into the second week is really about making those pitches. And if you're making the pitches between now and then you're ahead of the game. And then the last week is really about, oh my God, you've scored an article or an interview, what now? And that's the whole thing that we're doing right now. So I'm so grateful that you're here with me. You can write me in between. Before we go, make sure you, in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, open your chat. And if you right click, let me see how I get it. No, left click on save chat. So in your chat, it'll say to everyone or privately, and then it'll say save chat. And then you can, there you go. Like, where do we get the book? Pitchrate.com, Elizabeth.
Where?
Pitchrate.com.
Thank you.
That's where you'd get the book for free. Okay.
I can also post a direct link here.
Diane, she said also a 5-star theme. I have never heard of that before. What is that? Unmute yourself so you can tell us before we all leave.
English teachers. That's the classic 5-star theme. Your thesis is in the first paragraph. Proof, and then you repeat it with the conclusion.
Yeah. Also, by the way, I never knew it was called that. Also, the thing that you do for speaking gigs, right? You tell people what they're going to actually learn. And you'll notice I did that at the beginning, right? This is what we're going to do.
Okay.
Then we do it. And now I'm summarizing it. And
Do speech teachers have a name for this form too?
We'll just call it the 5-star theme, and then we'll have a blog about that too. It sounds good. And then the only thing I would pepper in there for public messaging is great storytelling, because the only thing that captures our attention really is a great story. If you don't move me with your story, I have already forgotten about you. We will all remember Jim is not impressed with Stephanie's book, and then we're all gonna be like, look at it. Right? It just is what works.
If you have a wobbly table, go ahead and buy it.
All right, everybody. I'll see you
Michelle-
here next Friday at 1.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.